Joining me right now is Josh Marshall, founder and editor of Talking Points Memo, and Joan Walsh of Salon. Let me start with you, Josh, and this new appeal by the president and the vice president. Speaking of talking points, they seem to have them. Buck up.
They're in a tough position. They have to get their base out, and frankly, myself, I think they're right. If the people, every Democrat who supports those positions, those people need to show up. The problem is the White House keeps coming into this with a lot of this comes down to tone, and it's really tough for them to get the message out, but without seeming dismissive or condescending. So they've got their work cut out for them, and they already got this track record where a month ago Robert Gibbs said this thing about the professional left and stuff. So they've sort of dealt themselves into a bit of a bad position, but they have to do this, and I think even though these comments are going to get a lot of people riled up and upset, they have to do it, and I think to some extent it'll work.
Well, let's take a look at what the Vice President of the United States said along these lines. Let's listen to Joe Biden.
There's some on the Democratic base, not the core of it, that are angry because we didn't get every single thing they want. And so those who didn't get everything they wanted, it's time to just buck up here, understand that we can make things better, continue to move forward, but not yield the playing field to those folks who are against everything that we stand for in terms of the initiatives we put forward.
Well, I guess the question is tone that's been raised by Josh. What do you make of it, Josh? Is it a question of tone or message here?
I think it's a little bit of both, Chris. I mean, look, this is hard for me. I feel like I'm in the middle of a family feud, and I love Joe Biden, but it's kind of like Uncle Joe is telling me to stop whining, and that never works. Have you ever told your kids to stop whining? It's not effective, and the base is feeling scapegoated. I don't understand. We don't see the Republicans saying to the Tea Party, stop whining. You didn't get everything you want, but we're better than the other side. It's a crazy-making message, and I actually disagree with Josh. I mean, I don't think it's going to work. Now, will a lot of us vote? Will most of us vote? The vast majority of the progressive base, will we vote? Of course we will. We always vote. But beating up on us, just makes no sense to me.
This is what I don't get. What do you mean by scapegoating? Do you mean setting up a blame game situation, assuming you're going to get beaten?
I worry about that a little bit. I'm not saying that flat out. Does that cross my mind? Sure, because I can't think of any other reason to do this, Chris. I don't know why you beat up your base. I don't know why you think that a way to motivate people is to tell them that they're wrong, they're ungrateful, they're irresponsible. So when my mind can't really find a good political reason for it, I go to psychological reasons, future political reasons. Maybe that's it, or maybe they're just really angry and they need to get it in check. Because
I think the last one is probably true. Human nature. He maybe just ticked off at the left, at the progressive left, the Ned roots, if you will. Let's take a look at the way the president's using the language. Quote, in a new Rolling Stone interview, the president said this, quote, the idea that we've got a lack of enthusiasm in the Democratic base, that people are sitting on their hands complaining, is just irresponsible. We have to get folks off the sidelines. People need to shake off this lethargy. People need to buck up. There's the phrase, Josh. I don't know. I would imagine my hunch is it's a combination where Jones says they're just angry that the left has been hitting them pretty hard, and they're trying to get them maybe guilt-ridden enough to get out there and vote. I don't know why you'd want to set them up to blame later, because that's going to be such a catastrophe. I don't think you can blame it on a small percentage of voters, which is the progressive left.
Yeah, I really don't think this is about setting anybody up for blame. I think the issue is that the White House needs to have a gut check moment with every potential voter and tell people, look, this is Hardball, the name of the show. This is, we're in a real fight here, and even though people are disappointed, we need everybody to come and turn out. And I think that's a message they have to send. That's a message they should send. At the same time, the White House is a pressure cooker right now, and I'm sure they feel embattled. And I think they do feel angry, and I think what they're feeling is, we wish these people would stop whining. Why is everybody complaining about what we're doing? These are the people who are supposed to support us, blah, 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 blah. So they've got a message that they have to send and should send, but I think to some extent their own feelings, their own emotions, which you know are bubbling over in that pressure cooker, are kind of coming through. There's a little more candor than might be wise for them, and that's why it's coming out this way. And you know, you're ending up with these quotes that I think even Democrats who really think they're right in some way kind of cringe to hear, just because again the tone's not right.
You know, Joan, let's talk Turkey here. The president's extremely transactional, we know. He's not warm and fuzzy about relationship politics. He's not a Clinton, for example. His whole idea of politics is, I'll do this if you do that. You vote for me, I'll do certain things for you, right? Transactional. So should he really be upset at people that don't feel that he met the transaction?
No, you know, look, I think Josh is right about the emotion, and you're right about the emotion, but emotion is a luxury you can't afford in this game, Chris, at this point. Yeah. And I don't think, you know, I'm very unhappy, for example, with this slogan, you know, the last election was about changing the guard, and this one is about guarding the change, because that also says to people, hey, we did the change, it's done, you know, you should be happy. And we all know, the president, first of all, the change is not done. So, you know, there's a lot of messaging mistakes going on here. And I think it's silly to be angry at voters. You've just got to reason with them and tell them why you're better than the other guys.
You know, I think part of this.
Okay, I want to ask you both to finish. Josh, hold on a second. I want to ask you both to finish with this thought, a big thought. Here you are, President of the United States, with a center-left coalition, with some high-thinking, I think, Republicans voted for you because they wanted to vote for you as a person. They're probably gone, that group. So you got a center-left coalition you've got to work through and get programs through in Congress, a Congress where it takes 60 votes to get anything done. So you need a very strong center-left coalition to get anything done. In fact, you need a supermajority, which is almost impossible. How do you prosecute a progressive agenda, win re-election, hold the midterms, and do it all, keep your far left happy, keep your middle right happy to the extent you need it? How do you do all that and be a leader and keep everybody happy? I don't know how you do it. You tell me, Josh. You know,
I think what it comes down to is, you know, Joan was just saying that this emotion is a luxury the White House can't afford. The White House is saying to its core supporters, this disappointment, this sense of acting out, we can't afford that. I think what it shows is when a political party is on the ropes, everybody's emotions are running high, and you know, no one can afford it, but everybody's doing it. And I think it's a time when a leader, the President of the United States in this case, needs to step in and exercise that kind of leadership to get it away from a blame game and get it to pulling everybody together, because the Democrats, frankly, can't afford on either side right now to be indulging their feelings of disappointment in either way.
Chris, I don't have an answer for it. I don't think you can keep everybody happy. We both know that's impossible. The hope for this president and the hope for the Democratic Party is that these reforms that they've put in place, health care reform and financial reform especially, as well as the stimulus, that those three things really would make life better for American people in a palpable way. Frankly, they haven't yet. Now, they haven't for lots of reasons, but one of them may be that they were too much of a compromise, which they needed to do to get the votes. But still, you need to have Democrats who make a difference for their constituency, and that's the only way to get reelected, and that's the only way to have a long-term Democratic majority, and that progressives are worried about that. Were those things too compromised so that, you know, WellPoint is saying we're not going to cover kids? Too bad. Yeah. That we've compromised too much with the corporations, and they still hold all the cards. That is an ideological question. It's a very practical political question, because if you give away the game to the corporations and then you do not produce change, your base and the rest of the country will be angry for the right reasons.
Well, the corporations don't think he's given them anything. Let me tell you, here's my view in response to what you both said. I think it's smart, both of you have said. I respect those views from everybody. Anybody's passionate about politics, I believe in. But I know this. This president has done what we were all taught in graduate school to do, what progressives have believed in from years and years, decades ago. One, you deal with an economic downfall with Keynesian economics. You compensate for the loss of consumer spending and business investment with government spending. That's what you do. That's what you're supposed to do. No one has had a better idea since the 1930s. Number two, the Wall Street crowd needed governing. They didn't have any. Now they've got some. Number three, he's pushed for progressive taxation. He's going after the rich. He's not giving them their tax cut. I think on all the issues, he's put people like Eric Holder at Justice. He's done a lot of things on the environment he's tried to do. He has done done what a progressive should have tried to do. And we can argue about tone and a degree of successful politics and personality, but I don't know how a liberal or progressive can turn their back on this guy and say they've got something better waiting in the closet, because I don't know who that person is.
Couldn't
and nobody talking
Chris.
does. Anyway, there ain't nobody out there but this guy, and certainly nobody no more progressive who could win an election for sheriff. Anyway, thank you, Josh Marshall. Maybe I'm getting mad. Josh Marshall and Joan Walsh.